What is going on, everybody? It's good to be back. Thanks for the kind words, K9. It's good to be back. Let's LFG. Let's get it today. There's a nice slate, not a huge, overwhelming one. I haven't played in 10 days, so it's probably a good thing for me. I'm actually going to do something that I know that I can get in trouble for, and that's fine because I want to show you guys what I'm doing today and where I'm at. It's similar builds to what I showed earlier on the site, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea. Let me grab this real quick, and I am going to share my screen briefly, and so I don't get in trouble. And then we'll talk about through what I'm going to actually do a little differently once we get off air. I do want to also point out there's a little bit of weather concerns, but nothing that seems to affect much hitting from as far as I can tell at the moment. This is where I'm at sort of right now. Manaea is my favorite pitcher on DK. I'm using a lot more Brubaker. I understand the Ashby argument. I will be sort of near the field with him. I mixed in a Chris Flexen lineup. I don't think I'm going to leave it in a big one, but it's going to be in a tiny bit. But Odorizzi, Manaea, Ashby, Brubaker are my main pitchers on DK. And this is sort of what I'm looking at. Now, what's going to change, and where I'm playing the Dodgers, and I think that they might actually be a little bit lower on than people think, some of the guys anyway. I'm trying to play, stack the bottom of the lineup. Of course, we don't have a lineup out yet, so we're still gonna have to see how that works. And I'm just making sure you guys can. Oh, it's not sharing the screen. That's really weird. Let me share the screen and see why it didn't work. Share. Very strange. Not sure why it's not working. Some reason that they won't let me share my DK screen. But I will go through what I'm doing sort of. So I am heavy on the Dodgers, even though I understand they're chalky. Like I said, play the bottom of the lineup, assuming that once we see what that actually is. The teams that I'm going to switch and get onto more that I wasn't as on earlier. I'm still on San Francisco a little bit, even against Merrill Kelly, and I understand that Merrill Kelly even makes sense as a pitching option. I didn't quite get that big game from the Giants against him yet, but I think it's coming. He faces them all the time, and I could feel a giant outburst today. And I'm definitely going to get more in on the San Diego side of things, even though their lineup isn't all that impressive. I think that they're in a really, really good spot today. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Oh, it is out now. So I haven't been able to take a look at the Dodger lineup because I'm obviously here. So I'll take a look at it and let you know who to play as we go along. Eric, again, on Oakland, I think Oakland is completely viable. They're really bad as an offense. It's when we have enough good teams, I don't want to overly stack them personally, but I have no problem if you want to. I can completely get the argument for it. I'm just not personally playing much Oakland, so I can't see that. K9, we got to get K9 a Saber Sim hat. I'll put that on my list here. We got Rich B in the house saying to get the money. Absolutely. Thank you, Sharks, for welcoming me back. It feels great to be back. It's been a really, really rough time. And so that's it's just good to be back. I get the argument for Oakland. I'm not going to spend the whole time talking about a stack that I'm not really using, but I don't mind if you want to do it. I think it makes more sense to me as a mini stack probably, but it's fine. I mean, you have a great bullpen behind Odorizzi. It's not great hitting conditions ever in Oakland, although I am playing some Astros, so doesn't exactly hold up my side of it. And Oakland's really cheap. I think if you look at like a Pinder, Murphy, Machin, it makes sense. Oakland may be good against lefties, but I don't know why that's relevant because it's not a lefty they're facing today. So I'm not really sure where that comes from. Favorite FanDuel stacks are, I am going heavy with Cleveland on FanDuel. I don't think I'm way off the board or anything. I like Cleveland, Boston, the Dodgers, and Houston the best, with San Diego and San Francisco being the stacks that I'm getting on more that I wasn't on earlier. I also like mini Tampa Bay stacks, especially where they're cheap, like Brandon Lau and a Rosarena on FanDuel stand out as those guys for me. Muncy is really cheap, but he's going to be really popular on FanDuel. But I am trying to stay away from some of the Dodgers on FanDuel because they're so easy to get in that I think they're going to be much more heavily owned on FanDuel than they are on DK. So I am still interested in the same stacks, the Cleveland, Boston, Houston, LA, but I would probably be less on LA. I will be less on LA, and I am not playing a ton of lineups on FanDuel, but I would probably be less on LA over there just for the simple fact that they're going to be so popular. Any Seattle love? I'm trying to figure out why. I think Seattle is I think Seattle is completely viable. I actually like that stack quite a bit. I'm not getting to it because I don't want to have too many. It's very easy to make a lot of good arguments today. Again, I'm sort of letting the default be, okay, worst hitters park on the slate, along with Oakland, but it's a little worse than Oakland is. And, the lineup is not exactly like crazy awe-inspiring, but I like the 1 through 5 especially. So I do think you can do it, and you can do it cheaply, and you can maybe get in, the big bats, maybe play them with the Dodgers or something like that. And you're going to get fairly low ownership of them as well. Really like Cal Raleigh batting fifth today as a one-off or as part of a stack. And Santana's been better, obviously, over there. But I would be trying to use Ty France on DraftKings instead of Santana personally. So that is that. I do think that Seattle makes some sense. But just remember, Oakland is not playing against a lefty today. I don't know where that came from, but they're not. That's not the current situation of what's happening. So taking a quick look if I'm missing something in relation to Odorizzi here, because my initial lean was that Odorizzi was going to be much more popular than I think he currently is projecting to be. And I don't exactly understand why. Like, again, I'm not this huge Odorizzi guy, but you get any matchup against Oakland is certainly interesting. I almost felt like when you said the thing before that maybe I missed this. Maybe I missed the somebody else was starting for Houston or something, because I don't know why. You have one of the lowest run totals in the slate now. It's still Odorizzi. I do have SaberSim has Odorizzi a lot lower owned than Roto Grinders does, for what it's worth. But still, I think that doesn't. I'm not letting the ownership dictate on my pitching all that much, with the exception of playing a little bit of Gonsolin instead of Fried. That's pretty much it. No problem, Eric. No problem at all. I'm not on Fried much tonight either. I am using him on FanDuel because it's just easy to get him in, and I don't really care, especially if I'm not stacking the Dodgers over there. So 10.5 seems like a reasonable bet on a guy who's probably going to end up with a quality start here and probably going to end up with a win. So I'm on that. I didn't end up getting to the Atlanta side of things today. There's a lot of stacks that I think are viable. So I was into Colorado early, and I just sort of haven't been able to pull the trigger there. I think that, Seattle, which was mentioned by Eric, I think is a very viable stack, but I'm just not, I can't stack everybody. And no matter how many lines you play, you don't want to be doing that. So you want to have your targeted focus. So I'm building a lot around the Dodgers, a lot of mini stacks around them, or Dodger mini stacks with full stacks from Cleveland, Boston, San Diego, or Houston. That's pretty much what I'm doing. Yeah, you know what? I kind of hear you a little bit, Rich. The only thing is you're saying that all pitchers get at Philly unless it's Nola. The problem is Nola pitches for Philly. So that's going to be a tough one. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's just a funny little side point. The Giants, I think, are very viable. I'm absolutely on board with taking some shots on the Giants. They face Kelly all the time. Should have enough familiarity to get to them, and their lineup tends to be better when they're facing righties. Although they got a few guys who hit lefties pretty well. It's just always frustrating with the Giants because so many of these guys, if they do get to them early, you're going to only get 2 or 3 at bats out of them, and it's just kind of tough. I mean, they pinch hit, they platoon like 5 of their guys, so it's always tricky to go for them. I don't tend to like to stack the Giants on big slates, but I do like it on smaller slates like tonight. So I could definitely see the argument for the Giants stack tonight as well. I mentioned earlier, see, that's the thing is I do like the Rockies lineup came out, and I'm not inspired by that. You know what I mean? You took the 2 bats I wanted the most out of the lineup, with obviously one of the largest park shifts for, anytime you're outside of Colorado, it's a huge negative park shift for them. So playing like Daza, even though he's cheap, Crone I still really like. I like Brendan Rodgers. I don't really know who else I really want to play here. I guess it's Grichuk. You could argue for Blackman at 5.3 for Blackman. I think it's viable completely, but I am not probably going to do it. I love the idea of getting creative against a young pitcher who's going to be popular and, getting the leverage that way. But I just am not finding myself all that excited about this as a full stack anymore. I do really like the Crone and Rodgers. They're the 2 guys I would want. Maybe you make it a mini with Daza. That's probably about as far as I'd want to go. Even paying 4.3 for Grichuk down near the, batting 6th. I just don't feel all that excited about it. I mean, Grichuk's hit 4 home runs and 100 at bats this year. Okay, it's fine. I'm just not all that excited about it personally, especially with the guys who are sitting out. I think that the 10% for Ashby on FanDuel is probably lower than he actually will come in. Especially the larger the buy in the tournament, the less I think the more people are going to pitch him over there. And but I don't think it's going to be like crazy more because it's really easy to get Manaea and Fried in. And as much as we like Ashby, we haven't seen. I mean, he's a super talented guy. The Rockies for the season, again, not their best lineup, but they have been solid against lefties. And yeah, so I do have interest in Ashby definitely on FanDuel and DraftKings. But I sort of am eating the Fried chalk on FanDuel. I don't mind either Fried or Manaea. You could take your pick. I think they're both in good spots. And I could see, good enough spots. It's not always that fun to play anybody against Philadelphia. But at the same time, Fried, I just watch it against the best teams over and over again. 7 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned run, win. it just feels like a pretty safe guy to use. Definitely, if you're playing cash, would be my favorite on FanDuel, just barely ahead of Minaya. I think you can make a good argument either way. Playing 222 on FanDuel, I'm sure you're more chalky. I don't know what the 222 is. Is there a big? I didn't see a big 222 on FanDuel today. What am I missing? Did I miss something? I thought that the tournaments kind of sucked on FanDuel today, personally. Oh, you're playing the 22-22, the all the twos. All right, yeah, you could definitely go a little more chalky in a 100-man field over there. So I think you can do you could definitely play a little bit more of that chalk in the $2,200 buy-in for sure. And I wish you great luck in it. I tend to wait for the six-figure ones before I play the 220, the 1650s and above, I would say. But I wish you luck, and I hope you knock it down and take it down, Ben. All right, let's get into any other thoughts, any other questions. Oh, single entry 222. Okay, that's what it is. Not the 2220. Okay, 2220. I was like, it's a big buy in. I was 2222. It's a pretty big buy in tournament. It's also my lucky numbers, as you guys can see. Got the 22 on my my little chain here. I don't know if you can even see that, but that is my lucky number. So I'm just fading that one and hoping that my lineup on FanDuel wouldn't have won that tournament, which is a really bad place to be in. Their offense is interesting. I don't agree that their offense is bad. They're I still believe one of the leading home run teams in all of baseball, which is kind of shocking when you look at their lineup. I don't think their lineup is bad, and I am personally not playing Milwaukee, so I can tell you that they're playing them because people are looking at Freeland's overall numbers. Remember, this guy pitches in Coors. It's a lot different when he pitches on the road. Not necessarily he's always different. It's just hard to have good season-long numbers. You don't want to pick on a guy when he's pitching half of his games at least, if not more, in Coors. So I am not as high on Milwaukee as the field is. I have a little bit of Adames here and there. I have a little bit of who else do I have from there? Pretty much just Adames. I think I have a little bit of Brousseau just because of the price, but I'm not like excited about it. And again, he won't stick around too long. Severino you could use if you are stacking. He's a cheap catching option. Even if you're not, 2,300 is reasonable enough for him for sure. So. Yeah, I love playing catchers on FanDuel. I agree with that. Hedges is not my favorite type of guy to play that situation, but like what I'll do is like if you were going to play the Dodgers on FanDuel, play Freeman and Will Smith in the same lineup. Do something like that. And I know those are both chalkier guys, but if you play them together, it's just less of a common build the way people construct their lineups. They don't usually put the first baseman and the catcher from the same team in the same lineup as often. But yeah, I mean, Milwaukee is still they strike out. They also hit home runs, and they're just talented enough to where I'm usually not taking too many pitchers against them, and I'm usually not stacking them. But they've got some guys who can hit well enough to, the 1 through 5, especially when you factor in Brousseau's price on DK. I understand it. I'm just not doing it myself. The same thing. I'm also staying away from the hitting in the Cubs game. It's only a light wind coming in, but I just don't feel like I need to mess with it as much. I also like Brubaker a little bit more than most people seem to. Interesting that Brubaker is tied for, I believe, the highest K prop on the slate today, and that he's not getting a little more love than he is even. Hedges is 2,100. No, I mean, I understand it. If I'm picking 4 Cleveland guys, it's hard for me to get to Hedges ahead of some of the other guys, but I certainly like the idea in general of playing catchers, so I'm not going to criticize anybody for it. And I'm going to right now, while you guys pop in any more questions or thoughts, take a quick look at the Dodgers lineup, because that is obviously going to dictate a lot of what I do. And Bellinger Lux is actually pretty much, Lamb batting 5th. Ugh, there comes some chalk right there. Lamb is going to be I think Lamb is going to be much more popular than the sites currently have him projected for. I'll say that right now. I think Cody Bellinger is going to be basically very, very low owned. I think Gavin Lux will be low owned. I think Trace Thompson will be extremely low owned. And if you can play 2 of those guys with your 5-man stacks, I think that's a really good way to go. Lux and Freeman, I dig it. And Freeman's price, by the way, may keep him pretty low owned. So I actually think the Dodgers stack is not quite as crazy chalky if you stay away from, like I said, if you play 2 of the guys at the bottom of the lineup, and my favorites would be Bellinger and Lux. Put in Freddie Freeman in that lineup. He's going to be lower owned than the other guys because of the position and the price. And then you could play Mookie and Trey and then figure out the rest. You can play the chalk with those guys, though, and I think you can get away with it pretty comfortably today. And it's a lot of what I'm going to do. It's a great matchup for the Dodgers. They're the best team in baseball by a long shot. And I don't really know how to argue against them as a stack, but at the same time, I think that you could also argue for maybe not going full 5-mans tonight and doing like 4-2-2s, 4-2-1-1s, that kind of thing, as I always say on non-full slates. That's right, Rich. Scared money doesn't make any money, so let's not be scared. Let's go out there and make some big plays, take some big chances. Look like Sheet's going to jump in while I have to jump out of here soon. So we do have Sheets in here. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up? I had a couple of minutes. I figured I'd just pop in.
Beautiful. What did you end up doing today?
Had a nice day at the office. Oh, you mean in the DFS today?
Yeah, either one is fine.
Yeah, so I ended up wimping out and not doing Oakland after all.
We had a good little Oakland discussion in here earlier.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing my top owned stacks look like Cleveland and Kansas City.
Interesting.
Yeah, those are my two top owned stacks, and then in pitchers, my top owned pitchers are Ashby and Manaea, and then Fried. And then I have sprinkles. I actually have way too much of Greinke and Brubaker. I'm pretty under, to say the least, on Odorizzi though. That'll be the way I'm fading that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm a little nervous about the Greinke exposure. I actually would rather I probably should just play Jared Walsh at sub 3K against Greinke, but that's currently what I have. Is Greinke a bad play? I mean,
I have no interest. I just can't do it with the strikeouts, but because they're so low. I mean, it is.
You know what, that's fair enough.
It's the right kind of matchup, though. I mean, I don't think you're going to be the only one to do it either. So, I think it's viable. It's just I'm not personally doing it. I'm very high on Brubaker. I like it, but I think there's some risk there. So I'm a little higher on Odorizzi, Brubaker, and Manaea are my top three guys. But I really do like Brubaker, and I'm using a little bit of the weirdness just beneath him. A little of the Ranger Suarez, and a very, very little bit of Chris Flexen. But
this is why I come here. I'm not using Greinke anymore.
Yeah, I understand. By the way, this is the third start in a row for Odorizzi against Oakland, for whatever you want to take that for. He did put up 30 in one of them.
That's something. I don't know what that means, right?
Yeah, I know, exactly, right? Like that's what I said, but it is interesting. You don't usually see that. And then I really think that also taking a shot on Syndergaard if you want to get another weird 7K. Most of my pitchers are everybody's 7K range. I'm not paying up on DK for pitching. On FanDuel, I am playing Fried as my main pitcher. But on DraftKings, I'm just going to stick in the 7Ks with Sean Manaea. And so you mentioned your stacks. I'm on the Dodgers. I know they're going to be owned, but I think on DraftKings it'll be harder to get some of them in than people think, especially like Freddie Freeman. I think will be a little lower owned than maybe he's being projected for or was projected for earlier. Like Lux and Bellinger, and you can include those two guys, or play Lux and play Bellinger and Thompson. And I promise you, that's not going to be even if you pay the chalky guys, you're getting different just with that build on its own, because Jake Lamb is going to be crazy popular. I like Cleveland and I like Boston both, but I'm higher on Cleveland. And the team that I'm using as my sort of like my 2 and 3 man stacks are a lot of little pieces from Tampa Bay. A lot of Brandon Lau and Randy Arozarena in my lineups. The team I could really see doing some damage, and we'll be like, oh, why didn't we play them? So they're sort of my complementary stack.
And you see the Dodgers lineup is out.
Yep. Jake Lamb is going to be pretty darn chalky, I think, now.
I don't think I'm going to have any of that. I got one lineup with him.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty mad. I'm going to, because there is some weather concerns a little bit.
Where?
Not like drastic. Let me just grab my notes here. The Cleveland-Boston game is just more just looks like a risk to the pitching. I don't think it looks like it's going to be a game that gets canceled or anything. And really we don't. I mean, I don't think anybody's talked that seriously about the pitching in that game anyway. So I'm not worried about it, and for the most part. And I think that you like they say there might be some delay in the LA KC game, but it doesn't look dangerous. And Atlanta Philly sort of a similar type of thing, but. Yeah, it's unlikely, low chance for a delay, but mostly it's just Cleveland, Boston. So I did want to check on Roth's thing in case anything drastically changes there, but I'm pretty sure that game's going to end up playing personally.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to get on to more San Diego and San Francisco. That's San Diego is the team that I sort of like stuck out to me early on, but when I did my builds, I didn't really find myself with that much of them, and I don't really have a good reason for why. because I don't expect them outside of Machado to be especially high owned. Partially that maybe because let me grab it on FanDuel. I have them a little higher owned than I do on DK.
We don't have the Houston lineup out yet.
No.
Specifically Alvarez.
Yes, that's the big one because that is the guy I want to spend on as well. Yeah, it looks like on DK, I guess you get some Machado, some Cronenworth, but not much else. I like Profar, I like Alfaro and Mazzara. You got the cheap option with Mazzara or Grisham. And I think Mazzara, obviously, batting cleanup makes a little more sense at 2,600, but I think you could use Grisham in a stack and feel pretty good about it. I do like San Diego tonight quite a bit, and I think I need to get more of that. I totally understand that we've got MJCS saying he's leaning the Braves and asks if there's any thoughts. I don't have the Braves, but I completely understand it and I support it 100%. It's just I can't play everybody. And against Suarez, who's sort of all over the place, seems like a good kind of spot to play them. I also do think Suarez is interesting on the other side because he's got pretty decent strikeout stuff. But I'm not that. I personally am lower than the field on the Braves. How about you, Sheets, with the Braves?
I don't have any of that.
Okay. Any interest in Jock?
Except for the pitcher. I got to have some of the pitcher.
Right. I like Jock for what it's worth. He is, I think, completely viable, and I think I think that team is in a good spot. Again, it's always weird to. I mean, what are we spending? What is Jock today? Let me just grab my sheets here. He's like you're spending way up on a guy who literally might get 2 at bats. That never feels good. He's not way up anymore. He's only at 4.3. But the same is true for. I mean, you might see Lamont Wade turn into to what's his name, Austin Slater. We don't even know who's starting for them yet. But they usually start all these lefties, and then Luis Gonzalez turns into Darren Ruff. Yastrzemski could turn into somebody else. There's just a lot of question marks on where to go with that one. The Giants are always a very tricky team to stack because they're like Tampa Bay, what has been over the past years, where they just basically platoon their guys. And
I got some Baltimore.
Yeah. I'm not getting them as a stack, but I don't mind a little bit here and there. I just don't like stacking against Tampa Bay in general. Any interest in the Rockies? I mentioned the Rockies. The lineup they released is not one that I wanted to go to battle with today.
Yeah.
The 2 guys I want to play the most are not in the lineup, and it's a good spot for both of them. So I sort of came off the Rockies. I have no problem if you want to take a shot with a guy like Grichuk, but you're paying more for him than guys who are much better than him. And it looks like San Francisco's lineup did just come out. Oh, they are starting Austin Slater against a righty. Interesting. He's been hot. I kind of like the lineup that the Giants released because you got Darren Ruff in there. A little less worried about the platooning if they can get to Kelly. Jock, Slater, Flores, Belt, Ruff, followed by Estrada, Gonzalez, VR, and Bart. I like the top 5 a lot, and I have no problem if you want to mix in somebody else instead of the top 5. But I do like those guys. I think.
Yeah, I might end up. I might screw around a little bit with San Francisco. I mean, depending on what how things are going in earlier stuff, I think.
Yeah. All right. I probably am going to get out of here in just a minute so I can go finish building my lineups. And
I am as well. I just wanted to pop in and say hello.
Glad you get by.
What's that?
Glad you stopped in.
Yep. And let's get some sweats going.
I love it, guys. We'll be in Discord all night, and we'll want to see some screenshots.